doesn't count. That doesn't count.
No,
that clearly doesn't
count because I accidentally bought gas and didn't know. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And the truth is, I really didn't need to because I had 130 gallons. You know, I had 130 miles before I had to go do anything. Because, you know, with a Prius, you kind of do okay with that stuff.
So the Dave Krantz Show wants to buy a new car. He wants to buy the Hyundai Baby SUV hybrid. I can't remember, what is it, Tucson or what is
something
it
like that? Yeah, yeah.
I told him to get a Maybach.
I drive a Maybach in hell.
Is that car going to be on display at the Radio Hall of Fame in Chicago?
Yes. Maybach in hell. That's good. I like that.
I didn't see the thing on the thing. So
I found it fairly easily today for whatever reason.
Okay.
I am ready when you are. We might actually get started at 1:30. It's crazy. It's nuts. It's a new concept.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Yep. Welcome to the Brad and Britt cast. We're glad you're with us here. We have a lot of things to cover today. You wanna have me spin the wheel of fortune here and have you pick one? What do you want? You want to do that?
Spin the wheel, make a deal. As I recall, the program director that I had who was obsessed with making things rhyme.
All right. How about fighting over gas? Of course.
Yeah.
Liz Cheney or Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
There's so many good ones. Let's start with an amuse-bouche of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because I know you're happy about a couple of things. Go ahead.
All right. Let's call it up here and make sure we.
You know, Al Roker was in Cleveland this week for the Reopening of America series that I guess he's doing on the Today Show, and a lot of folks from Channel 3, WKYC, your NBC affiliate in Cleveland, were showing him around town, and of course, he was at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, among other places.
All right, here you go. It's Jay-Z, the Foo Fighters, the Go-Go's,
right?
Tina Turner.
Get to the real ones. Tina Turner's great.
Carole King,
yes,
and Todd Rundgren.
Now, again, you're the king of. I'm not going to get upset about this because it's fake, but then you kind of get outraged about it. How Carole King wasn't in there 40 years ago is beyond anybody, right? How that hasn't happened.
Well, she's in there as a songwriter,
right?
Okay, This is now as a performer.
Still.
Okay. For instance, Tim Tebow could be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but then be in the Baseball Hall of Fame. They're two different things. Okay?
All she did was release one of the iconic solo albums of the '70s, right? One of the greatest solo albums in the history of the '70s, of the whole decade. So yes,
yeah, oh sure. You know what? This is one of the best classes in a long time.
It truly is.
And you know why? Because not one of them is in the category of I've never fucking barely heard of them and never listened to their music. Okay.
Thank you.
And I'm not embarrassed to say that every year for the last few years, there have been some people that are, at least to me, were on the margins, but I know that musically they're very sound and they were influential and all that. But I'm just a street boy. I'm not as sophisticated as you believe that I am, and I know you think I'm very, very sophisticated.
Oh no, you're worldly. Oh, you're out there. No,
I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot.
Todd Rundgren is probably the artist I've seen second most not named Pearl Jam. So I mean, he's obviously a guy who I've loved since I was. That's how John the Catholic and I even became acquainted with each other, was many, many years ago with the Todd Rundgren connection. He's just this Zelig character that shows up all throughout rock and roll history, producing Bat Out of Hell. And when Grand Funk was selling an album every 6 seconds, he was producing We're an American Band. Of course, on his own, he's had hits going back forever and ever. So yeah, it's an excellent class. It really is.
It's I really can't complain about it, except for some of my perennial complaints, which include WTF the Guess Who. I don't get that.
It's legitimate. I mean, your gripes are completely legitimate, and it's somewhat of a fraudulent Hall of Fame because it's Jan, doing his stuff. But it's a great class, and I'm happy for these people. And would you like to? Who do you think is going to present Jay-Z when it's time for the induction? Because I have a theory on this. I believe it will be America's first black female billionaire who will be presenting
Oprah?
Jay-Z. I believe she will be the one who inducts Jay-Z.
Oprah?
She took a shine to Jay-Z back in the 90s and the early part of this century and would have him on the show and was kind of fascinated by him. I believe that she will be the one who does the inducting of Jay-Z into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
You don't think it'll be his wife, Ellen DeGeneres?
No, I don't believe so. You see, of course, I'm just a ridiculous Pearl Jam. I even have like a Pearl Jam shirt on today. I'm a ridiculous Pearl Jam guy. Neil Young was slated to induct them in the Hall of Fame. At the last moment, Neil Young becomes sick, and so some talk show host named Letterpool or something. He was on. I don't know. He was on a couple different networks. He does it. So it turned out really great. You have David Michael Letterman inducting Pearl Jam into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when Neil Young gets sick. That's not a bad second choice. That's not a bad consolation prize, right?
That works for me.
Yeah, it's pretty decent.
We also have LL Cool J, Billy Preston, and Randy Rhoads with musical excellence awards, and Kraftwerk, Gil Scott-Heron, Charlie Patton as early influencers.
Sure.
And
it's as good as far as foraging for diamonds after the original 5 or 6 classes. It's as good as you're going to get for sure.
Let me ask you this, and maybe I'm completely idiotic for asking this question. Go-Go's or Bangles? Go-Go's or Bangles?
The Bangles were sort of, how do I put this? They were sort of the monkeys when you compare them to the Go-Go's. The Go-Go's were like the real ones, and then the Bangles were perfectly fine in their own right, but kind of hotter because the Bangles had the hotter lead singer. That's how that worked. Even though Belinda Carlisle, fantastic in her own right and had a great solo career, Susanna Hoffs was a teenage fantasy for many of us who had a lot of things going on with our bodies due to puberty in the 1980s. That's how that worked. The second appetizer. What were your other choices? I know it was the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Oh, well, fighting over gas.
Yeah, let's do
Or-
that before we do Liz Cheney. Yeah, doing fighting over gas, because I bought gas this morning and I felt I wasn't going to, but I noticed the station near my house was like, it's not crazy. Let's go do that. And I'm good till June now with the Prius, I think.
All right. Here we go. This happened in Nightdale near Raleigh.
Nightdale, North Carolina. Hello.
Right. So a guy was waiting for his turn at the pump, and of course he had to whip out his cell phone. It used to be you could just get into an incident, get beaten up, and get shot, and your first inclination was to protect yourself or run. It wasn't to pull out your phone and record yourself. But okay. The bystanders identified only as Rashad, and this is via WRAL. He says he was waiting in line about 2 p.m. at a marathon station. Woman in a white Honda Accord, for purposes of this story, we'll call her Karen, attempted to cut into the long line. And nobody was happy about that. Nobody would let her in, which is when Rashad started recording. Who do y'all think is wrong? He writes in his caption for the video that he threw up on Instagram. Shows the woman getting out of her car after Rashad said she hit a gray Honda CRV and spitting at a man driving the other Honda. Karen spit at the guy. The man can then be seen emerging from his car, walking over to her and spitting on her.
Jeepers.
At which point the two start scuffling. You mean spitting doesn't count as scuffling? Apparently not.
I think the legal term for legally, I think that's assault, I think.
Right. At one point, the guy appears to throw the woman's cell phone onto the street, and the man's shirt, according to the Daily Beast, who decided to report on this story also, the guy's shirt ended up getting torn in a, quote, scrappy fight, which went on until the cops showed up. It's not clear if any arrests were made, and we will wait for lawyer Benjamin Crump to get hired to handle this story because he's not busy enough.
When Scrappy Fight was introduced to that cartoon show, it really ruined it. That was a jump the shark moment for that. Are you on board now? I'm hearing this a lot, and it's not just a thing with I'm not doing the Fox News. Some people are saying this is true,
which means you're about to. But go ahead.
Well, there's a zeitgeist out there that, a lot of this is because the media caused this frenzy. Are you on board with that?
No, not for 1 second.
I am too. I'm with you. I think the media is just. I mean, the governor declared a state of emergency in our state and a couple of other ones. So what's the media supposed to do? The governor said something today. Don't worry about it. Hey, look, rain in the forecast. Let's go look at the fence maker and over in Bumfuck, who's been building fences for 8 years.
This is a great topic and a great story because it brings up this issue of our Americans mature enough to handle the truth.
Thank you.
And the basis of that idea that this was caused by the publicity or the news coverage of the fact that the pipeline was shut down. And by the way, I do object to, without explanation, why every story was 5,500 miles of pipeline, and they show Texas to New England.
Yeah,
I'm not a geography major, but that's not 5,500 miles. Okay,
no.
That's about half that at best. But okay, all right, I accept the number. You make
a strong point because I think from I-40 west to I-40 west is like 3,000 miles. So
you could drive to Hawaii. It's about 5,500 or 6,000.
All right,
okay,
that's it. Right. Again, these are valid points.
These are just things I notice that they just get repeated, and it's 5,500 miles. Well, why is it 5,500 miles? Is there a return? Are there two?
They double up. They triple it. Yeah.
Just asking the question. The question. But can the American people ever handle a situation where it calls for calm, rational thinking? And the facts usually are always be damned. And in this case, it was said over and over again, we don't have a supply problem. There's plenty of oil and gas that is going to be made available, even if the pipeline is shut down longer than anticipated, because we do have trucks and we can get the eventually. So the best thing that people can do, the advice was, is to not panic and not all try to fill up at the same time, because that will be a self-fulfilling prophecy of stupidity. So what happened? People heard that and said, that's great advice. How fast can I get to the station? How fast? Right? So
Exactly.
We're always doing the wrong thing. And by the way, can I stop on the way home and pick up some more toilet paper? Because maybe I'm out of toilet paper too. No, I got plenty of that.
It's not even like, it's not only that. It's like not only going to the gas station and gassing up your vehicle, but getting. I mean, aren't they showing pictures of people putting gas in bags? Aren't they showing that?
Oh yeah, no. It's not just enough. You take all the cans you use for your lawnmower and fill those up too.
Yeah, aren't they showing? I mean, I think somebody had to release a statement, some government agency saying, please don't put gas in bags. Please don't do that. There was like some sort of warning that had to be put out there. I mean, there is a school of thought, Brad, that the media should factor in that people are stupid. And that they should know that people are stupid, and they shouldn't, just like you said.
No, because you know what that turns into? It's already no one trusts the media. They have the lowest trust ratings ever, blah, 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 blah. If it's already thought that they control the thought, they decide what's news, what isn't news, and my channel is truthful and yours is a bunch of liars. If in a case like this, where again, it's not politics, it's just facts, it's just oil and gas and a hack by a foreign entity, if you cover up things, then we really are not only not in a free country anymore, democratic. We are in Eastern Europe, in 1952, where they just tell the people whatever they let's keep it a secret. That doesn't work. It's just stupid to think that that's possible.
This is the story. Like this. For those of you watching, it's being displayed now. In a series of tweets, the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission issued stark safety instructions. Do not fill plastic bags with gasoline. They said, use only containers approved for fuel. The agency also posted a video to illustrate the dangers of flame jetting, which it said is a sudden and possibly violent flash fire that occur when pouring flammable liquids from a container over an exposed flame or other ignition source. Again, just in case you weren't aware of this, and there are some videos that are out there on social media and stuff of people putting gas into bags, plastic bags for storage purposes. So I agree with you. If anyone wants to blame the media is simply reporting that there's been a ransomware attack, and the people that transport a huge amount of fuel to Americans has been screwed up by this. And if people want to take that and run with it and then go and get every container they've got and go to the store and be stupid, I don't see that that's a media problem. I think that's a people problem. That's a person problem.
We've already decided that.
Yeah.
We've already decided that. The more important part of this story is going to be, number one, how do they get everything up and running again? Will it really happen by the weekend? And then, it'll just be a blip. It won't really matter. And you will have wasted a lot of time if you stood in line for hours and hours and hours to get gas. Number two, are they going to pay the ransom? Are we ever going to know if they paid the ransom?
Right.
That's a question of, should we be allowed to know if they paid the ransom? Because that's part of the give and take in these situations, because the hackers, they would love it if it was announced that the ransom was paid, because that would just give them more power. And if it is paid, then what is to stop them from doing it again? And then there's this other body of thought that there could be actual legislation. And this one, wow, you want to talk about government getting in there, it would be illegal to pay a ransom. You would be breaking the law if you paid a ransom because, as you know, if you pay it, they'll just do it again or they'll do it to someone else, as opposed to, for instance, in this case, let's say that whoever is doing this, whether they're coming out of Russia, whether they're a state actor, whether they're a private group, whether they're sanctioned as a private group by Putin, and they really do have the Colonial Pipeline Company, which is not one company. It's made up of like 5 or 6 different entities that are all together. I mean, it's really but it's a private company. It's not traded as a stock. If they do have the ability to permanently stop this pipeline from operating, and you say, well, it's illegal to pay a ransom. Well, we can't pay a ransom. No more pipeline. Then you have a gas problem. Okay. Then you really have a gas problem. And I don't think we're going to be privy to how this gets solved. I don't think they're ever going to talk about it, because if they talk about it, then that just clues in the next group on how to act differently or to go after something else that could be a lot worse than just not being able to buy gas.
We've been hearing this for a number of years, though, that these sort of attacks are a national security issue, and we just never seem to take the steps to protect ourselves. And hopefully, maybe
did we ever have Richard Clark on with us?
I think at least one time we had Richard Clark on. Yeah,
many years ago at the beginning when he was considered to be a crank.
Yeah,
he was thought of as a nut because he had been the cybersecurity guy before there was cybersecurity. He was warning that because everything was becoming computerized and everything was being interconnected. I mean, he knew about the Internet of Things before there was an Internet of Things, and he said, "This is dangerous shit. And we got to protect against it." And so he's been writing and lecturing and talking about it and putting out books about this subject forever. Right. And now he gets to, I'm sure he's thrilled to be able to play the "I told you so" game, because he told us about things like this. This is not the worst thing that can be done. There are other things that could be worse,
but it's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad. It's no bueno. Yeah. And now on to the number one story of the day, as we talked about yesterday. And by the way, it really, I think you pointed this out on our previous, or maybe on Monday's Brad and BBCast. There really nothing happens in Russia without Putin's stupid, silly, dirty ass hands in it. So whether, you got to think he's getting a piece of the action somehow, or he's sanctioning this, or he's nodding at it, or somehow.
Wouldn't that be great if it turned out that, we're going to pay the ransom. How do we pay the ransom? Put it into Putin's Bitcoin account.
That's what I was going to say. I've thought about this for a while. You can fart on this if you want to, but I think at some point something corrupt as hell happens in Russia with Putin, and he goes, "Our official currency in Russia is now Dogecoin," and he just declares it, and it's corrupt as shit, and they pay him like a couple $2 billion to make that the official currency, and then that's just the way it is, and boom, 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 and you have to deal with it.
Right.
One of those, whether it's Bitcoin or crypto or one of those other ones, and it's his. All right. The main event, without further ado, Liz Cheney giving a very impassioned speech on the House of Representatives, talking about honoring dead soldiers by honoring the truth. And that speech was immediately crapped on and ignored by her Republican colleagues, who very quickly voted her out of the number 3 position in the House of Representatives. She is no longer in that position, although she continues to say that I'm going to be a pain in your ass and I'm going to fight Trump until I can't breathe no mo. Your thoughts on Liz Cheney being very quickly ousted, and was it a real moment of inflection and another massive failure by the Republican Party to have any kind of soul, Brad?
Well, that isn't even open for debate. That's what it was. But I find the way it was done, of course, illustrative of just where they want this to be put. They want this moment to be put right back there with January 6th, which of course really didn't happen, because they did it at 9 in the morning, and they really did do it early in the morning. and they did it fast, and they did it with a voice vote. In other words, who's for getting rid of Liz Cheney? Well, yeah, lots of people shout out, and who's not for getting rid of Liz Cheney? These 3 people say, all right, she's gone. And that's how they did it. So this time, not only was it a secret vote, but the vote wasn't really a vote. It was one of those by acclamation, get her out of there. And this really does remind me of that famous video of Saddam Hussein at that meeting of the Iraqi government in an auditorium. He's standing there at the podium, and he starts reading off names of disloyal people, and they are told to stand up. And soldiers grab them, and they drag them down the aisle. And of course, you never saw those people again. They were purged right there as an example in front of everyone else. That's how dictators work. This time, the dictator is working from a place. I guess he's in New Jersey now. He's not in Florida anymore, but he's working from long distance and achieving the same goal of a purge of someone who was in the 3rd spot, which, by the way, being number 3 in the minority party is a nothing. It doesn't really mean anything. It's not.
Well,
it's symbolic of I guess your leadership, but you're not really leading anything. So it doesn't.
Yeah, but the guy who doesn't hold any office at all and just lost the last election made sure that the number 3 person, which is really nothing, got her ass dosed and sent down the road.
All right. Well, Britt, who is the king of nothing? Who is the king? He is the king of nothing. So right after it's over, Kevin, I really am Joe McCarthy, gets up there. And remember, we know what this is all about. I'm not going to go over all the details of why Liz Cheney's getting tossed out. Everybody knows it's because, she told the truth. She wasn't going to go along with the bullshit about the election being stolen, Trump being denied, and the rest of it. So what does Kevin McCarthy say right after this is over? Here is the quote. You'll see the clip all day long everywhere, and tonight if you want to. I don't think anybody is questioning the legitimacy of the president's election. That is all over with. Really? No. Really? So that's the kind of gaslighting, 180 degrees, full of shit lie on top of a lie. I don't know, a lie to the 2nd and 3rd and 4th power, where you lie about your own lie. And the only reason Liz Cheney truly is gone is because she would not go along with the lie that Donald Trump was cheated out of the presidency by an illegitimate electoral process that was manipulated by dead dictators in Venezuela. So what does Kevin McCarthy say? Oh, nobody's questioning the election result. No, really? No, that's all you're doing. So again, it's complete brain farting on purpose and lying about the lie. And Britt, I think you're Kevin McCarthy, truly, he's not the sharpest knife in the drawer. I'm questioning whether he's even a knife. I think he's a spoon. He thinks that this is just such brilliant political strategery that this is going to sweep him into the position that Nancy Pelosi holds right now. That there's going to, and it shouldn't, it can't, but it might, because of other factors that have nothing to do with his brilliance, which does not exist. But this is terrible for the country. It's terrible for whatever remains of the Republican Party. It undercuts. I want you to think about this idea that we used to send people to other countries that would hold elections so that we could monitor them.
Right.
So that the election was seen to be on the up and up. And Jimmy Carter did a lot of that, right?
He spent about half his life. He spent about half his life doing that stuff.
Right. He would go to South Africa or other places that were just starting to have elections. Well, we can't do that now. We need those countries to come here and monitor our elections. Okay, apparently, but we really don't, because the last election was completely on the up and up. So you're caught in this vortex of complete utter bullshit that,
So there's
that
your-
doesn't mean anything.
There's
And-
the quote. There's the quote from what you were
Yeah.
talking about. We're displaying it now. I don't think anybody is questioning the legitimacy of Biden's win. All of that means, that Kevin McCarthy is going to be forced to get on a plane and go kiss Donald Trump's ass and fix this. He's got to go up and kiss him and say, "I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. Everybody knows that you won." That's what's going to happen.
Right. But wait a second. If no one is questioning the legitimacy of Biden's win, then somebody is going to have to get on an airplane and fly out to Phoenix, Arizona, Maricopa County,
Right.
and tell those wonderful patriots, those cyber ninja geniuses, those super qualified, wonderful folks, that they really don't need to bother to try to recount the votes, which they have no standing to really do.
Right.
Because Kevin McCarthy, the leader of the party, says nobody's questioning this is so not. Again, 3 days ago, you could not have predicted that someone would then say something like this after they tossed out Liz Cheney. Because again, it's too crazy. You cannot think of things ahead of time that they're going to say that are such lies and such.
Can we just go
of reality.
Can we just go back?
Can we just do it?
Can we just go back on those 147 stories over the past week about, the Republicans are at a real source of inflection. They better watch it and be very careful about this Liz Cheney thing, because the future of their parties, and it's over. It was over. They're soulless. They've sold their soul to Donald Trump, and there's no way out. And this was never not going to happen. I'm sorry. This was not close. They were always going to do a secret vote at 9 o'clock in the morning to get rid of her, because Mussolini, the Jersey Mussolini, wanted her gone, and they have to kiss his ass, or they're going to get primaried. They're going to be out of their sweet, cushy jobs with their excellent pensions. So it was always going to happen, and the soul of the Republican Party has been missing for at least 5 years now. So the madness over, I don't know, they might not. It was always fraudulent to me, because they always had to perpetuate the big lie, and they always have to keep kissing his ass. And this is what he wanted. So they were always going to do what he wanted. They're not going to do anything that he doesn't want them to do at this point. It's just not going to happen. They're running to him so hard. They're driving so hard to the hoop on this that there is no Republican Party anymore. It's over.
We shouldn't let, and while we don't expect any profiles in courage, beyond Liz Cheney or Adam Kissinger or Mitt Romney and some of the other House members who at least voted to convict or voted to impeach Trump a couple of months ago, we shouldn't expect anything more than that. But the fact is that they run the numbers, and the numbers say that people related to you and people that I know and people that walk among us believe that Donald Trump was robbed of the presidency. Now, Kevin McCarthy just straightened everybody out and said, nobody doesn't think it was a legit. Okay. But, what is the number, I believe, is 70%, right? 70%
That's right.
of Republicans do not believe that Joe Biden is the legitimate president. So McCarthy runs the numbers and says the only way we can keep most of that 70% in our camp and keep them from sitting home on election day or voting for someone, as you said, most importantly in the primary, is to stick with Trump, because the 70%, they're sticking with Trump come hell or high water. And Liz Cheney has already given interviews, and I believe the first one she gave was to NBC's Andrea Mitchell, or Savannah Guthrie, I think it was. Savannah Guthrie, the woman who attacked Donald Trump during that town hall meeting. That
so
vicious
awful
attack that she leveled at him. That ambush.
Yeah, the way that she was completely fair to him in every way, shape, or form, and completely legitimate. The questions she was asking that were so unfair.
Right. But she I think first spoke to Savannah Guthrie of NBC. And as I said, even last week, we'll know that the transformation is complete when she only is appearing on CNN and MSNBC or NBC News, and she's persona non grata on Fox. Now, last night, the night before the vote, Tuesday night, there was nothing, not a mention of Liz Cheney on foxnews.com all the way until late in the evening after she had spoken in front of the House chamber, where all the Republicans walked out except for one.
Right, like cowards, like absolute cowards. And let's
Right.
underline, you should definitely go to YouTube or wherever you got to go to see that 6 minutes, because she's amazing in that 6 minute
good.
speech.
She's very good. No question. She was very good. But she it wasn't until late at night that Fox even acknowledged that there was a story about Liz Cheney all day long, because it was a top story everywhere else. But in Fox world, remember, she was an afterthought. She never counted. She was always on the wrong side the last few weeks and months because she didn't go along with the program of supporting and sucking up to Trump. So I'd be surprised if they even talk about it today at all there. And their people are just walking along with their blinders on, and it's just Trump, 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 Trump. That's all that matters to them. And own the libs, own the libs, own the libs. Oh,
well, I can show you. I can show you as we speak on Wednesday, the 12th of May, 2021, of the year of our Lord. What is the top story at foxnews.com? I'm going to display it for you right there. White House is just staggered by multiple crises, from gas shortage to overseas conflict and migrant surge. That's what's happening. And it's got a great picture of Joe Biden with his hand on his forehead as though he's having some gas pains. Right. That's now, our top story.
I don't see, and of course, I don't see anything about the Liz Cheney thing, which is really the breaking news out of Washington today. And by the way, all those things are they're true, but they are pumped up and constantly exaggerated over and over and over
exactly.
again. I mean, we know the game. We know the game that they're playing. So
the top story is that, and then I'll go down the list here. Senator Cruz responds to racially charged attack from MSNBC anchor. This seems to be the big deal. They're like obsessed with Joy, right? On MSNBC. They can't
understand
her.
Why would they pick on her?
I don't know. And then they've got the Israeli airstrike, Times Square shooting suspect arrested in Florida. No, don't see any Liz Cheney among their top stories in Fox News. Wait a minute. Down toward the bottom.
No, we made the point. It's true. It's just true. I mean, it's
there it is at the bottom. But it was never, and I really would urge you. I think Kevin McCarthy will be summoned up to New Jersey to kiss the ring and explain his comments about how nobody's questioning Joe Biden's legitimate win. I think he's going to have to polish that turd for Donald Trump effectively, or Donald Trump's going to go off on him. He's going to be very upset at Kevin McCarthy.
I'm starting to wonder whether you're right about that. In other words, remember how Trump was able to look you straight in the eye and say, I said 2 and 2 was 5 last week, but I never said 2 and 2 was 5. Okay, well, you didn't say it, but you just said you said it. And I think he may be giving Kevin McCarthy, it's possible, the space to say exactly what he did, because that's the kind of Trumpian lie where you say something that is so factually empty, that no one can believe you said it. And part of now we have to separate when we use the phrase big lie, because it didn't just start with what happened after the election and the way they're lying about what happened and that Trump got denied. Remember, Trump's been the master of the big lie all the way as an adult in his entire life. Okay. And that very often involved just saying things that were so outrageously devoid of reality, and then 5 minutes later saying completely the opposite of that. And I think that McCarthy may be playing 100% out of the Donald Trump playbook, which is just lie completely. And Trump will ignore it. He will not respond to it, because if this was a problem, he would have already put out some kind of statement somehow, some way, to let it be known that Kevin McCarthy just moved on to his shit list. And that hasn't happened, has it?
Not yet. Well, he's too busy. He's too busy celebrating his big victory vis-a-vis Liz Cheney. There's the statement. Liz Cheney is a bitter, horrible human being, and I watched her yesterday and realized how bad she is for the Republican Party. He goes on to complete bitch. He does not blame the junkie horses on her or Joe Biden yet, but I'm sure that's coming. So there's the final sentence is, I look forward to soon watching her as a paid contributor on CNN or MSDNC. Ha, ha, ha. That just gets funnier when they do that. It's the funniest thing ever when they continue to do that.
It never gets old. No soup
as
for
of
you.
Right
it gets
now,
funnier every time I say it.
As of right now, Kevin McCarthy is solidly in place to be the Speaker of the House when those midterm elections are over. The Republicans are in the driver's seat for the 2022 midterms. And I'm not just talking about, because even if the voter suppression laws that are being passed throughout America are overturned in court, with gerrymandering and other stuff, it looks like going into the 2022 elections, just based on that and the redrawing of districts, the Democrats are going to be down 5 or 6 seats before we even start going, before we even the first vote is cast.
I wouldn't venture to even think about making predictions about that, because it really all depends on whether Joe Biden maintains that paltry, pathetic 63% approval rating.
Well, this gas thing's got to have it down to 58 or 59. The gas thing has to get him down to 58 or 59. I would think at this point it's got to be way down.
Wait, just a second. Just a second. There was a guy, I can't remember his name. There's one of these people that's on your news feed that you don't even know who they are, right?
Right.
And it was a complete in the tank Trumper, just complete in the tank Trumper. And there were about 50 responses, and about 30 of the responses were about how gas prices are high because Joe Biden wants them this way. And this is his dream, what's happened with the Colonial Pipeline. Now, I'm just guessing that that's not going to be a long-term strategy to deal with what happened here, when it's Russia and it's cybersecurity, and cybersecurity issues didn't just start again on January 21st, 2021. They didn't. And for people to immediately, well, there's a couple points off of Biden's approval ratings because the Russians hacked our that's not going to fly. That's not going to hurt Joe Biden. It's not about him. In fact, you could turn this around in about 2 seconds, because if fucking Trump was the president, this exact thing would have happened. What would he have done? What
bomb Syria. He would have bombed Syria.
Right. Exactly. He would have done something stupid. He would have done something stupid. So,
do you remember how courageous he was? Do you remember how courageous he was when he bombed Syria and how that solved that entire problem? It was amazing. I mean, it was just like, it was the greatest. It made D-Day look like a Chinese checkers, if I may say so, unless that's being completely racist or bigoted. It was the most amazing military operation, I think, in the history of our country, was the bombing of Syria.
Yeah.
And letting
I got one more here.
Okay.
I got one more here, and this has to do with the state of South Carolina, because the governor of South Carolina has declared that it is now illegal for any mask mandates at all by anybody, anywhere, a school, a business, at all. You're just not allowed to do it anymore. We're done. It's all solved. South Carolina, freedom. And
God bless. Yeah.
You know, we always talk about, well, what's the dumbest state? And you know, we've been Florida, Texas,
Arizona,
but Michigan.
We
really undersell South Carolina, because when the backs are against the wall, when there's no tomorrow, when you need to
they
give
come through.
110% of your stupidity, you could always count on South Carolina, can't you?
It's true.
You can.
I think we can get a waiver on that mask thing, though, if the mask is actually of a Confederate flag. I think that's fine.
I would not disagree with that waiver. That might be the exception there. But I just want to get that one little kudo in there for our friends in South Carolina. Congratulations, and we wish you well. We wish you the best. Right.
Right.
Anything else of note?
That's all we got for a Wednesday. We'll rejoin you here to finish up our week. Everybody stay safe. Go get some gas. Go to bag and grab some gas.